Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Cracking the Code to REI Challenges. Every Friday we host this episode for you guys. My name is Lizarazo and my co-host is Elizabeth Kelly. Now before we get started, I want to share some exciting news with you. I have a social networking platform. It's called REFAM, and on there we've created a group in there for you all. And in there it's called Real Estate Investor Think Tank. And this is for you to be able to submit your questions or problems anonymously, or you can also just do them as yourself. And there you can be able to get support, you can mastermind on solutions, because like I always say, you really want a place where you can ask your questions and feel confident to ask them, so that if you need that confidence to do it anonymously, that ability is there. Back to the show. So if you guys are ready, let's send Elizabeth some thumbs up, some hearts, some fire, and let's get her on the stage.
Is it there? Oh, normally when it rings, it means that it actually connected. Let's see. And while we wait for this to work out, I want to say to all the women, happy International Women's Day. What are you guys doing today? I don't know why it's not even working at all. I'm going to cancel it and then start again. Okay, see if it works. But yeah, let us know in the comments if you have, while we wait for Elizabeth to come on. Okay, I think she's on.
Hey!
I made it!
You made it!
How are
Happy
you?
International Women's Day!
Happy Women's Day to you too. Have you got big plans to celebrate?
Actually, I feel like this whole week I think it was a Women's Day. It was more of a Women's Week. So many events
That's
going on. What
good. That's
about
good.
yourself?
Yeah, I've got a networking meeting that I'm going tonight, so I'm excited about that. It's always nice to spend Women's Day with like other boss babes, right?
100%. Because it's nothing like, we all, well, as women, you have so you'll have problems that, maybe men don't encounter. So it's nice to or collaborate on how to solve those problems is also really nice, because sometimes one thing that actually yesterday I was at a networking event, and actually I've always found it kind of interesting where, if you're a woman and, you get hired because either you're a woman or some type of minority, you feel like you're not getting hired for your skills and you want to
Yeah.
be hired for your skills. But that at the same account, sometimes it kind of works to your benefit too, because maybe you're super shy, nervous, you're a noob, and it's just very hard to get in. And sometimes those things also kind of help you get in. That actually happened with me. I got into consulting at a university was specifically because they hired me because I was a woman. I was an engineer because they needed you to be an engineer, and because I was a minority. And or else I don't think I would have actually gotten the job, because I even got in the interview. They told me I got hired, but at the same time I got severely criticized on my interview skills because they were that bad.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's just nice to hear about the environment, that now how they can make it more conducive for different types of women or even people in general, to get them in and more focusing on like what are those skills that are really important. And for example, maybe being shy, you can overlook it because you're looking at other really important skills. So it's very interesting actually to hear people's points of view.
It is, the engineering space is very challenging. It is definitely at least in the past, was very male dominated, and there are still even some aspects of engineering that are still heavily male.
Yeah. So actually getting onto our show, getting a little distracted. So I wanted to talk about the first one. And I feel like even though I feel like this story is really so many different versions of the story, is people being nervous about getting their first property. Generally, they're worried about, for example, prices of houses going down further or not, and then not wanting to buy because of that, or because, I mean, right now I feel like it's about interest rates. The interest rates are too high. Um, and and so curious on your opinion on how to help those first time investors kind of get over those nerves, get over the fears of getting in and like either reducing those fears or kind of like not letting them overpower themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now is actually an amazing time to buy real estate. And the reason why is because we are pretty much, I think, at the bottom of the decline, and we're positioning ourselves. So as interest rates stabilize and then start to come down, the market is going to start to pick up. So this is a fantastic time to buy. We are not going to be able to buy real estate much cheaper than we are right now. And when we look at interest rates, first of all, we've been spoiled. So anybody who just started investing in the last 10, 12 years, like totally spoiled. What we used to see for interest rates, 1, 2, 3%, that's actually one end of the pendulum. And people are like, no, this is normal. No, the interest rates that we have right now, that is normal. That is middle of the road. And we've just been really spoiled. So the reality is, if you can find a property where the numbers work right now at a 7% interest rate, and just so you know, in 2008, when I was taking my Rich Dad courses, we were told to run numbers at 7% because that's the normal interest rate. So if you can find a property or a deal that generates some cash flow for you and provides a decent return at the interest rate now, then if it goes down in the future, it's going to be nothing but beneficial for you. But there's going to be an offset here where prices are increasing and interest rate is decreasing, and you're going to be better off taking action right now, literally right now. A year from now, you're going to be kicking yourself that you didn't take action. So in terms of trying to time the market and everything else, that's a bunch of hooey. This is a fantastic time to buy. And in terms of it being your very first deal, education and support and your network are literally the 2 or 3 things that can make such a tremendous difference for you in terms of helping you take action, helping you become more confident, empowering you to feel like you have analyzed all the variables, you've surrounded yourself with people who have your best interests at heart, and you are making a solid decision. I mean, no, you can't sit in your driveway and not back out to go to the grocery store until every single light is green. You just have to know that no matter what happens in the journey, you're going to know how to handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I would also like to give Barb a shout out. She said bidding wars. So there are bidding wars coming up again. Or I think they still have. It just depends on the type of deals. They still have bidding wars. But what I wanted to also suggest to people was that if you're a new investor coming in, and especially if you're dealing with, you're just super nervous and really stressed out about it, I think identifying the things that are stressing you out really helps a lot. And also, realizing, because I feel like the nerves will always stay there. You can reduce them, but you always have also those little irrational ones that will be like, oh my God, what if the world ends? It's like, is that really realistic? So like letting those ones, just reminding yourself of like the ones that are illogical and letting those ones kind of go to the side, because I feel like the nerves are always going to be there. It's something new for you, and that's just, change is always stressful for everyone, and there's always going to be a level of stress there. But I would say like that, asking yourself the questions and then finding the answers for it. And also like that getting into the communities, which is why I suggested I wanted to tell people about the community, that the group that we have in REFAM, because in there you can also have people to answer the questions for you and just give you different perspectives, because obviously coming in you're going to come in with the view of never investing. And so your answers probably don't even make sense for you yourself because you don't know enough about investing. Whereas if you're going into an environment where there's not only investors, but different types of investors, you get so many different points of views on how to, let's say, manage buying your first property or something. So I wanted to also suggest that. And I wanted to also say giving yourself a time frame. So for example, let's say you say like, I'm going to give myself like a month to learn about real estate, do my research, and obviously in a plan of like this, like learning about it, but then kind of capping yourself off so that you're ready to take the action afterwards. Because I feel like there's also that you just get stuck in the loop of just looking for information. So sometimes having that date there really, really helps to either get you crunching those numbers quicker or like learning that information quicker, but also kind of stops you from just getting stuck in the endless loop of all the information that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Those are great points.
Did you have any other comments? I just wanted to say also, Barb was saying for new investors, don't get emotionally attached to the property. Oh, that's a big one. Stick with your numbers, even in the bidding war. That's a very great tip too, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Kind of
One of the
inevitable,
exercises that
no?
I go through with my coaching clients is we create what I call rules of engagement. So it's, what does a deal actually look like for you? Because what I've found is that for newer investors who might not have compared as many properties, or they might not have, particularly if this is your first one, you don't have the experience to know what does a deal look like. As it's become harder to find deals in the last little while, people have sort of lowered their standards, and what they would have considered a deal 5 years ago is not what looks like a deal now. So creating these rules of engagement, what is the minimum ROI that I need to see? What is the minimum cash flow that I'm willing to accept? What is the potential for what this will add to my net worth in 10 years or 15 years? And knowing what success actually looks like, I find can be really helpful too, because it enables you to cycle through potential opportunities much faster, where you go like, nope, 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 these ones don't meet my criteria. And then all of a sudden you come across one and it meets your criteria and you think, oh my gosh, this one has potential. This one has legs. So I'm going to put some time and energy in here. But if you have made the decision about what success looks like when you're not emotionally involved, as Barb says, then the numbers should just be reflective of should you be taking action or not.
100%. And I just wanted to, what did I want to say about that? Yeah, and actually, it's very interesting because I feel like, have you ever met someone who actually the first time doesn't get emotionally attached to the property? Because I feel like every single person has, for some reason, when it's their first property, seems to always get attached in some way or the other. They see it as theirs, over renovated, for example. See it as theirs and don't want to sell it because it's their baby, it's their retirement fund, and can't look past the actually looking at the numbers. That was my problem. I bought a property. It was defined. It was my very first one. It was defined as my little retirement home, and I was never gonna sell it. I told myself it was my baby. And when I actually started to get into actually investing and learning more about how to run it as a business is when I realized I had to remove those views because I could actually make a lot more money by selling that property. I can tell you that property, I was going cash negative about $50 a month. I went from that to actually um, selling it, buying a property that bird 120% got, and I was cash flowing 2,000 a month. On top of that, I did a private lend with the other money that I had left over. So part of the money was used for the renovation, used for that property. The other money that was left over, I used that for a private lend, and that private lend was getting me $1,000 a month. So altogether, I went from minus 50 a month to 3,000 a month, and it was by selling that property I was so attached to.
Yeah. And it's great that you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people get attached to this idea of more is better in real estate. And it's more is not always better. You know, there are times where it makes sense to sell assets, to sell properties. And if you've in a situation where the asset is not performing the way that it should, you've got equity locked in there that you can't access, then it can make sense to sell it and to be able to buy more. So what you were able to do, you released one property and you were able to do three different types of, or two or three different types of investing. So you actually were able to diversify with the same money, which puts you in a better position to be able to withstand a market like we've been through the last 2 years. I will always choose diversification over putting all of my eggs in one basket, always.
100%. And like that, even actually the year before that, I actually refinanced, and I actually refinanced to buy a property before I did the sale. So technically I was bought two houses and a private land out of that property. So
Perfect.
that was, yeah, so that was like amazing to see. And sometimes we don't realize the potential of what we have until we get into things and until we remove our attachments to things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always a big advocate for quality over quantity. And cash flow is one of my guiding principles. If I'm not generating cash flow, I'm not interested. Doesn't matter, what this, that, or the other thing. There has to be cash flow there, because I have to have the ability to withstand. I mean, some of the increases we've seen in the cost of utilities and taxes, I mean, utilities have gone up like 40, 50%. My insurance has like doubled in the space of just a few years. If you are starting from day one at break even or negative, you have no ability to withstand any of those increases in expenses at all.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree. And the next one is basically leading into the same is there's an investor that they're having or new, again, it's a new investor, and they're nervous about is even knowing if their numbers actually make sense. And they just don't know if they're actually like if the numbers are real for them, like if they're running the numbers and they're actually accurate, or if they're being unrealistic with their numbers. So that's causing them fears to take the plunge and buy the property, because they don't know if their renovation budget is actually a good budget, or if they're considering everything that needs to be, let's say, for their mainly. I think it was actually they're more worried about the renovation budget and being completely off, because you hear about like that, like renovation going high, or renovation like unforeseen issues with it and then having to add more to it. What advice would you give in that case?
That's such a great point, because when you're starting out in real estate, it becomes very easy to manipulate the numbers and make things look better than maybe they actually are. Hey, Sean, glad you can join us today.
Yeah.
It becomes really hard to make sure, like, is this a realistic and reasonable number, or should I be including something different? And I think that's where a community like you have started with REFAM, or a coach or a mentor or an accountability partner, having that second set of eyes can really kind of give you that level of comfort that the numbers you're using make sense. And specifically regarding renovations, I think it makes sense to get a couple of different quotes, because what I've seen happen, I'm trying to remember the term for it. quote creep. So this is where someone provides a quote and they say, this is what we're going to do for you, and this is how much it's going to cost. And then you hire this person because they're cheaper than the other people. And next thing you know, well, this wasn't included in the quote, and this wasn't included in the quote. And by the time you're done, they ended up costing more than the highest quote from before. So it's really important to make sure that you're getting multiple cost estimates before you make a commitment, and to talk with other people who have that experience and can tell you, I mean, you can walk into Home Depot and ask them what the average cost is to lay down flooring. They'll give you the number by square foot. It's $6 a square foot for flooring. Okay, so you go and you build the quote yourself and you say, okay, $6 per square foot for flooring. And then you ask them, how much do your painters charge? Okay, it's $3 per square foot for painting. So you can do some of those approximations and estimations yourself, or you can hire or bring in professionals to do the actual detailed quotes for you.
100%. And Sean from REI Nursing said, always get numbers firmed up with the good contractor. We always walk the property with appraiser and contractors that get us all working together on a proper path. So that's also a really good point.
Yeah.
And your point of also having many contractors come in, because like you said, having many contractors is kind of nice when you look at the quotes, because some may be missing information, like you were saying, or not missing information, missing certain things that need to be done in the renovation.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you don't have experience in that area, you will not know. You may not actually know what is missing. And for example, like that, like, oh, we're gonna get your flooring done for $5,000, and you realize in the end that the baseboards weren't part of that quote, and then that's an extra cost or something.
Yeah.
So having many quotes also helps even to just see how people write their quotes. And even it's also nice for the purpose of, maybe one guy is more detail oriented and you like that because now you know everything that's in there, and then maybe work with them, even though they may be a little more costly. Or you may notice, for example, another one, you ask them questions and they're actually answering your questions, which is also kind of nice because it also helps you start in your learning process of understanding what's involved in renovations. And then you may go with them, because I also personally think if you're going to do your first property and you're thinking to do many in the future, you do want to have more knowledge in all those areas, like your contractor or even like your lawyers, your accountants, like having more information about investing than the general person that just buys a house. You do want to actually understand things a lot more. So if you are going to go into renovations, as in buy properties and renovate them, you do want to have a pretty decent understanding of renovations, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And there's a saying, I don't know if you've heard this, in when it comes to hiring contractors, but you can have speed, you can have quality, or you can have like cost, right? You can't have all three. So pick your two. Do you want the renovations done fast? Do you want them done well, or do you want them done cost effectively? Most of the time for real estate investors, we're going to go with fast and we're going to go with cost effective, because we are not going to be living in the property, and it doesn't have to be at 100% of perfection. We're okay with 85 or 90% when it's a rental property.
100%. And then just again, Sean was saying, and make sure they have a good REIT, I don't know what REIT is.
Reputation, I think he means.
Yeah. And references.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do want to look into them also. And always adding, we're talking about again the numbers part of it, adding a little buffer on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And also time-wise. If they say it's going to be, for example, 2 months of renovations, maybe add on another month. I feel like as a new investor, I feel like pad everything up as much as you can.
Yeah, allow margins of error everywhere.
Yeah, just because you need to build up that experience. Like, you have to do quite a few projects to actually be able to start understanding how things are. for you for the type of project, for the type of investments that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Sean just volunteered. He said we build a power team for every flip. I think Sean just said if you want to do flips, reach out to me because I can help you. I think that's what Sean was saying there.
Awesome. Yeah. And any other things that you wanted to mention about that?
I think one of the things that's really important when you're a new investor, like let's normalize that idea of being afraid, of being nervous. We're talking about big dollar amounts, and that doesn't mean that you don't push ahead anyways. Don't let that fear be a limiting factor for you in moving forward. Make sure you've padded your numbers and you've got enough variables in there and you've got enough buffers and everything else, because nothing is ever going to go according to plan. And it doesn't matter whether it's your first property or your 100th property, you can still get, these unforeseen things thrown at you. And whether it's administrative or whether it's the condition of the property or whatever else, it really comes down to being confident in your ability to handle those obstacles that are put in front of you, in being resilient enough to be able to get back up and figure it out. And when you believe in yourself enough, then one deal or 100 deals, it doesn't carry the same weight, because there's tremendous protection that comes from being in volume. Like, if you have one deal and that one deal goes sideways, then that's really challenging. If you have 10 deals and one deal goes sideways, it doesn't have the same burden, right?
100%. And actually, I wanted to go back to your comment about having a mentor, because that's also a great way, especially you're making sure that mentor is doing the type of work that you're looking to do, because they will also give you that guidance of, oh, that quote looks good because it has this and this and this in there, or it looks like it's missing this or maybe you give them pictures, right? Or from the pictures, why aren't you getting this done or that done? Or why does the quote not have this or that or whatever? So a mentor is really good for that. But if you're, and understanding that, let's say if you decide not to do a mentor, then you do have to have a budget for mentoring yourself, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would say in the first couple places that you go to, you get a bunch of contractors to come in. But once you find that one that you think is good, usually I still feel that it takes time to find that right property, because again, you're still trying to figure out your numbers and stuff, and you may still want to go on the site to see a few more properties and get a few quotes. So I feel that even though you get free estimates, do that one time, but I would put a budget in for you find that one or two guys that you like, that seems like the quote is good, and then you're going to go see other properties to not waste their time. Put a little budget in there for them, because as you do more quotes also, you also start learning. So I feel like either you go to the mentor and just they help you out, or if you don't want to, like, I feel like you still have to have some money aside if you're going to decide to learn it on your own, because you don't, like, the contractors will get annoyed with you if you just keep on calling them and never actually close a deal with them. And then you may ruin actually a good relationship, that because you like that person, you see they're very good at communicating, or their quotes really seem very good, but then they'll only do so many, and then they're just kind of, I'm gone. Clearly you're not serious. So even just paying them for their time to come and do the quotes is also good. And like that, it helps you build that confidence in them, or lack of, if it doesn't end up working out, but you just kind of get to know them. So I feel like even if you're not going to do the mentorship, have a budget for training yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And if you don't want, and I always view education, it's an investment in myself, right? Hiring a coach is investing in myself. And if it costs me $10,000 to hire a coach, it's $10,000 that I'm not going to lose in a deal. So I consider that a good investment. But if you are in a situation where you want to learn how to do quotes and renovations, then ask a contractor if you can job shadow him for a day and go around with him and follow along and see what he does for quotes. Talk to him, spend the day picking his brain, take him out for lunch, and then just hang around and absorb information like a sponge. That is the best some of the best learning experiences I've had have been as a volunteer shadowing people. That's how I figured out, when I went to university, I was like, I want to be a chiropractor. I spent a day with a chiropractor. I was like, I do not want to be a chiropractor. Then I was like, I want to be an athletic therapist. So I volunteered for a summer in an athletic therapy a clinic. And I was like, I do not want to be an athletic therapist. So sometimes that volunteering can actually show you what you don't want, which gets you closer to what you do.
Yeah, I love that point. Actually, that's a good point that you say that because you could do it on both sides. You could, help out an investor and see
Mm-hmm.
how they go through things, volunteering for them, or same thing. Because we actually had someone that joined our team and they joined. I mean, they weren't volunteering; we were paying them, but they joined for specifically to learn about the renovations to start better understanding what was involved. Because their view was they're not going to want to do renovations for long. Like they told us, they're like, we'll probably be here for like a year or two working for you. But really, the intention was to just have a good understanding of the different types of renovations, what's involved in doing the renovation. So then when they're ready to buy, and actually they ended up buying while we were also, they're working with us. But, when they're ready to buy, they feel that much more confident. And
Mm-hmm.
in that, because you build a relationship with them, like my husband went with them to help them to see what the quote was. And obviously in their case, my husband went and like my husband's business did the work for them. So it just helps, all these different things help you build confidence.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And to be perfectly honest, if you think you're going to sit at home and do nothing and miraculously wake up one day and be confident, I got news for you. It's not going to happen. Confidence comes from taking action. So
Yeah.
you look at something and you go, what are the small increments, the small decisions I can make to start moving things forward, which is going to give me the confidence to take action in bigger ways. And that's the only way you're going to start to feel better, is to gain experience and start making decisions.
Exactly. I love it. Elizabeth, thank you so much. You always provide such insightful information. If you guys love what you heard from Elizabeth, she's going to be tagged on here so you'll be able to follow her and see what she's up to. If you guys love my shows and what I'm up to, or maybe want to get on ReFam, then follow me too, and you can see what I'm up to. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Diana. Always a pleasure. See you soon.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Elizabeth.
Bye.